This video is going to highlight everything we've learned in the first 90 days of Complete Streets that is wrapping up here shortly. We are going to break this video down into why it happened. Why are we doing the trial? And then we're going to discuss how it's going. And then we are going to discuss the complications kind of surrounding the conversation on the actual trial and legislative part of this conversation itself, because they really are two entirely separate conversations. So you've probably already heard me say it before, but Complete Streets is a proven concept working across the country in cities both bigger and smaller than Utica, New York. If Complete Streets, for whatever reason, doesn't work in Utica, that should concern us greatly. The good news is it is working. Now, how did we know it was going to work? Well, a couple things to know. What we were experiencing, and in some parts of Genesee Street, obviously we still are experiencing this, but 4 lanes was designed for 15,000 to 20,000 cars on average a day. Our traffic data viewer reported us as seeing around 9,400 cars on average a day. So that means anything less than an average of 10,000 cars a day is a perfect candidate for Complete Streets. Now, of course, a lot of people bring up, well, what about the Nexus Center and the hospital coming? So how can you do this when we're going to need more space? So let's talk about that. The good news is Nexus is open right now. We are fully experiencing it. While the hospital isn't open yet, what we do have is a massive traffic impact study. Downtown is expected to get maybe about 1,800 more vehicles and traffic a day. Of that 1,800, only a little over 5% of those cars will actually be going onto Genesee Street. Genesee Street during those peak hours that we're already experiencing might see about 100 more cars a day. That means our estimates that we are currently under 9,000 still won't even push us over the threshold with the hospital coming, with visitors and employees, because this road is overbuilt with those 4 lanes. So while the traffic numbers prove we are a great candidate for Complete Streets, unfortunately, so do our pedestrian accident reports. In 2016, we were ranked number 17th in the entire state for the most pedestrian accidents. Those pedestrian accidents, over 80% of them are right on Genesee Street. As a result, what we experienced in 2020 was the Common Council approved funding from the state. It was about $570,000 to improve our crosswalks where pedestrians were getting hit the most. So to all the people who have said, why are you doing this? Nothing is wrong with the street, leave it alone. Well, that simply wasn't true, and it isn't true today. It's good to note that Complete Streets is actually proven to boost the local economy. When you create a walkable, safer, more enjoyable city to be in, that is going to encourage people and pedestrians to come and walk and shop at your local businesses. So what we did on Genesee Street is we took those 4 lanes our road was currently overbuilt for. So now we have 3 lanes. You have northbound, southbound, and that middle lane, which is used for turning and deliveries. This concept of a delivery zone in the middle actually came from delivery drivers themselves. A lot of them enjoy that they can park right in the middle and they can do deliveries on both sides of the road. Now, the other part of this conversation that comes up all the time when we talk about Complete Streets is, why would we put bike lanes in downtown? Nobody bikes. And I want to stop you right there. They absolutely do. I've said this before, by the amount of times I almost get hit, I believe that you don't see us. I have friends and loved ones who bike. E-bikes and e-scooters and all sorts of other modes of transportation really are the next wave that we are seeing. It is already here, but we are going to be seeing it even more. So while bike lanes weren't actually the main priority in transforming the street, safety was number 1 priority. In doing so and reducing the lane that was not needed, it actually created enough width on both sides of the street to implement bike lanes. Now, where they are currently, people are concerned about their car doors opening. I've witnessed a car door open, and I still had enough room to get by the car. And with those car doors opening, let's talk about that. This was one of the most unexpected, amazing aspects of the trial. Is once we actually painted the lines and experienced it, I couldn't believe how comforting and freeing it was to open my car door and not worry about getting hit. The amount of friends I've had who have had their cars actually sideswiped, by the way, in that area is very alarming. I've heard of people actually being pinned. I've had people been hit before and have gotten the text messages saying, hey, we need to get our friend to the hospital. So if you feel safe getting out of your car, and if you feel safe biking there, amazing. And I've said this before in other videos, but when you had 4 lanes of cars, that was 4 potential points of impact. Now with the lanes, that is only 3 potential points of impact. That creates a safer environment. Again, these are traffic calming measures that come from the state. So the next part I want to explain about why we're doing this is, yes, of course, because of safety, but also these are plans that have been in place since 2012. I did not create this. I did not make the concept of Complete Streets. This is from our own city engineers. We also have concepts and drawings from New York State DOT engineers, which are very, very similar. Because at the very beginning, the first concept actually had a full-on median in the middle of the road and diagonal parking. It did receive pushback. And oftentimes when I was going around to businesses this past summer explaining to them we're looking to do this trial, the resistance came from, no, please don't do a meeting in the middle. So no matter how often I explained it to them, there was kind of this hesitance because all they could picture is what they have seen for over a decade. And that's largely where I think the trial was the best move, instead of just obviously jumping and making it permanent. And that's another point I want to make, is some people have said, well, why didn't I have a say in this? And I need to emphasize and be very clear, this is the feedback part. So in 2016, complete streets policy legislation was proposed and passed in Utica. Now what that meant is, as streets are updated and looked at, we need to, as a city, decide, how do we complete this? How do we make this functional for everyone, safer for everyone, offer multiple modes of transportation, and just a better use of this pavement? So you fast forward to the beginning of the year, I've talked about making a family-friendly and safer downtown and streets throughout both my campaigns, throughout my entire year on the council. And what that means, part of that conversation is complete streets. I've been talking and meeting with administration since back in March and April about this complete street concept, had conversations with safety, had conversations with other planning departments. It was something on my mind to do for our city for a very long time, and not because of me, but because of the people I represent. I think people forget that downtown is more than just commerce. I have over 600 apartments alone where this trial is happening. Let me tell you, there are not 600 parking spots. The people who live here walk where they need to go, and we should actually keep encouraging that, because again, it cuts down on traffic. It cuts down on the use of heavy vehicles on the road, which cuts down on repairs. It's a money saver in and of itself. But I'm here to represent people, and when I talk to, people in the McCardivan apartments, they are loving this new experience. They feel safer that they can walk in their downtown, and also some of them are on motorized wheelchairs. To get across the street isn't the most safe, enjoyable experience. And now this is finally starting to be a place that they feel like that they can enjoy their city. People want to feel safe, but they also want to feel like downtown's convenient. That's another message of this. I think a lot of the message was distorted by people who didn't understand the concept of complete streets and had concerns. There were fears of, how would first responders get through? And I said from the beginning, if first responders can get through with 4 lanes of traffic in their way, they're going to be able to get through the same width of road, now with only 3 lanes of traffic in their way. Early on though, because this was past October 19th, didn't start until October 25th. So we had a long weekend of just a lot of opinions and a lot of debate before a drop of paint even went down. To reiterate another point, people say, why are you wasting tax dollars on this? Well, safety, I don't think, is a waste of tax dollars, but also this was the most cost-effective way to pursue this. We were painting the stripes no matter what that Saturday, but if this has been in the works, you could say since 2016, since that legislation was proposed, or you could even say for a decade, since 2012, when these original drawings were created. Why would we paint it for 4 lanes when all the data and experts say otherwise? Sure, we could have had a longer rollout to request a trial. Let's get to that in a second. But for what? It's been a decade. So now that we laid the groundwork on why we are implementing complete streets, and should have been for the last 10 years, and we finally are, now I want to talk about the controversy surrounding the trial. A couple things I think people are confused about. The mayor, the public safety commissioner, have full reign to complete trials as they see. City council themselves don't actually conduct trials. What I did with my resolution was I requested the mayor to pursue a trial. I said, this is something that people will really benefit from in this district. Can we try it out just to make sure that this vision is the best course of action to make permanent in downtown? I have said this from the beginning, the 90-day trial shouldn't be, should we go back to 4 lanes or not? The question is, how does complete streets best work in our downtown? But I can see why people were confused, because the next meeting, there was a PowerPoint presentation done by the president of the Common Council, what he thought was wrong in the rollout of this trial. And I actually spoke up about this in the meeting, but all good points on data and things we should look for. But I was confused because it sounded like these are things he wanted the council to be a part of. And that's where I separate the two. Being a part of a trial and requesting a trial are 2 very different things. Public safety and the administration implement the trials. I just said, we wanted one. Can you please pursue this route? And again, I did not draw these concepts. I did not have any say in how wide a parking spot is. That is all up to our engineers and New York State regulations. I haven't spoken to one engineer that doesn't like it. I've spoken to engineers that have better ideas and ways to improve it. While these are 2 separate things, the other point I want to make clear is council members don't even have to request trials. You don't need a resolution. I did one for the sake of letting people know this is where my intentions are. Could have just swept it under the rug and we all went about our day, and one day the road was changed and everybody said, what, why? Not for nothing. It does happen regularly in downtown. We don't know when construction will happen, whether it's National Grid or what, but there's immediately cones up and we just go along with it and we get through it because it's just a growing downtown. But that's not what happened. I wanted people to know the intent. And I'm not even knocking the presentation. They were good ideas. It comes from a place of wanting to foolproof this, to avoid worst case scenario, right? I understand that. But what I want to say to that is, here we are wrapping up the end of the 90 days and worst case scenario never happened. So at what point can we lay to rest the rollout of the trial being wrong? Because frankly, there legally is no right or wrong way for a trial to happen. Sure, there's better ways, but at what point is it just red tape and bureaucracy? I think as we look to move forward and decide what's next, something that a lot of people have spoken up about is we need better signage. I agree. Definite bike lane symbols would be amazing. Where there is congestion, that ideally will be rectified by new traffic lights, especially with the Opticom system that we're looking to get for our first responders. But from what I've experienced, people say, look, I'm not against the street looking the way it does or what's happening. I never said I was against that. They never said they were for it, but that's beside the point. But what I am against is how this trial was rolled out. And I think they're trying to associate that if the trial was rolled out poorly, that's a reflection that the idea itself is bad. It's not. They're two different things. And frankly, I need people to put that to rest because they're still using it 90 days in. And now I need us to talk about the actual features of this Complete Streets, of how to improve it. Another thing I've heard is that there is a checklist that is supposed to be filled out before pursuing this. And that's not accurate. Yes, there is a checklist. It's an 11-page document on the Complete Streets policy. It's about 26 items that it's yes or no. Are there bike lanes connecting to this area? Check. Yes. It's very straightforward, but there's one part I want to make clear. Use of this checklist is initiated during the earliest phase of a project. When information about existing conditions and needs may be limited, it is therefore likely that the preparer will only be able to complete steps 1 and 2. As the project progresses and more detailed information becomes available, the preparer will be able to complete steps 3 and continue to refine earlier answers to give an increasingly accurate indication of needs and opportunities for Complete Street features. This checklist is designed to be tweaked and looked at constantly. It's not designed to be done and then, okay, we have the green light, let's go. This is 100% everything that will be happening. So people have been confused through this process, and deliberately at that. The burden of proof is on the people who think that 4 lanes is somehow safer and better for everyone, because all the data and experts say otherwise. And to anyone else who says this is wrong and should never happen again and they're going this extreme route, it's not many people, but it is some, and it's loud enough, and I want to call it for what it is, and it's political. And yes, the other part of this is the trial was not finished up to the part where I was hoping it would be, even what the administration was hoping it would be. But I actually think that became a good thing. Here's why. So now the people from court to cottage have had adequate time to prepare and understand the concept of the trial. They could look at it down the street, say, this is how it would function on our side. They could see it. I've been able to meet with businesses one-on-one. Stanley Theater for sure. I've went to load-ins. I've went to shows. I've sat in shows. I've surveyed people. I went in the day. I went at night. From what I hear, they were fine with the lane reduction. It was the bike lanes they were concerned about specifically because they worried that it would block their delivery trucks. To that, I will say the safety lane, bike lane area may block bikers, but that's okay. In the event that there is an obstruction in a bike lane, bikers just resume with the rest of the road as they normally do. So while I wish it was completed, and the reason it wasn't is because the grinder to grind those stripes on the road wasn't available yet to repaint them correctly. But I think it was a very valuable time and data point to look at 3 blocks of downtown with Complete Streets implemented, and then you have 3 blocks where it's not. So I think the cons people have experienced throughout the trial, which there are some. Nobody's saying there's not, but I think that they've pointed to needing better signage, better markers, better traffic lights, which we are all getting and pursuing. And I think the pros have just so outweighed the cons. And the pros are being able to drive through downtown without worrying about somebody weaving in and out. In the turning lanes, that has been a huge improvement. Now you don't have to wait for a car to turn when you're trying to go straight. They have their own lane to turn. Delivery drivers have their space that they said that they liked. And one of my favorites is being able to get out of your car safely, walk alongside your car to find your access point to get into the businesses that you're looking to get into or to your home. So thank you to everybody who has participated in this. I hope we can see more of this and we can see tweaks and improvements on this as we go forward. I will be getting a lot of data, and this will include car counts, pedestrian counts, bikers, timed routes, any congestion points. It will also include average speed of cars going by, because yes, I did buy my own radar gun when this trial started. Like I said, this video is being made before the trial is up. As it currently stands, we have about a week to go. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Our downtown was originally designed to go through it, not come to it. We're trying to change that so people come to it, and it's working. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying that this trial was the best and cheapest option to pursue what complete streets actually looks like, and just finally start implementing something that has been in the works for a decade. And to the people, again, there's people who are upset by the trial rollout. Please just start separating that part of the conversation. There's people I'm concerned with that they aren't legislating, they're just trolling. And it's really confusing the message when safety is the concern, when an actual viable, happy downtown is the focus, because then we can use this model to expand throughout the rest of our city and connect the rest of our city. I just don't think that's a topic people should try to deliberately confuse others on. And I can't emphasize enough, there are points of this to improve before anything is made permanent. But we need to start implementing complete streets, and this was how. I have residents telling me that they feel like that they can finally walk through their downtown and that it's their neighborhood now. It's not just this boulevard that people plow through with their cars. It's home. And I think overall, when we talk about this conversation, I don't think people are waking up and thinking about this every day, to be honest. I think that for the most part, people are just not fazed, and that's a good thing. You don't walk through your day and think, wow, I was safe. You know, it's only the absence of safety of when we have concerns. So no news can be good news, and I think generally most people maybe don't care. From my standpoint of what I've experienced, when we look at the people who have an opinion on it, more like it than don't. When we talk about the people who don't like it, what I hear the most is about the trial rollout and the execution, and they wish businesses had more time. But I want to wrap up with this, and I won't say who it's from, but I received a message from somebody. Is a business owner downtown, very well loved, so well known, and I just respect a lot. I was very grateful to hear their feedback. I'm just going to leave their name out, and if the person listening who said these words wants to come forward, feel free. But otherwise, the message goes, any complaints, just ask what was ever done previously to improve the district. And then they go on to say, sorry, but there have been no noticeable improvements that have positively impacted them to this extent in the last 30 years. So that is the messages I receive often. So this was a long video to tell you that it's working, and it should be. Don't even take my word for it. Come downtown, check it out. Don't just drive through downtown. This experience is so far from just driving. This is about actually walking and experiencing the city. So please come downtown. Don't just go through it. Stop at a restaurant, hang out, go to the jewelers, go to the record store, go to Utica Vintage Club. Be in downtown. Experience it. That's where you will see the positive impact we've had. And I think you'll quickly see why those benefits and pros outweigh any cons we're seeing from the driving experience. Again, because a lot of those driving experiences where there are cons and those congestions, we are looking to fix those and are working towards that. We have been meeting with safety and police on this. Thank you for everybody who's been along on the ride for phase 1. I say phase 1 because I hope there's more to come. Utica is a growing city. What has worked for us might not be what's working for us in the next 100 years. And I think that's a good thing, that we keep looking at this and tweaking it and just adapting our city for the growth it's experiencing. If you are watching this video and you have more questions and answers even at the end of this, let me know. There were so many parts that I had to edit out. This has been a wild 90 days. I struggled with what to put in this video and with what not to. I've certainly left out details, and that was intentionally done to hopefully preserve some relationships and conversations I've had with people so we can come to better agreements in the future. And I know in no world will everybody always agree, but I think how we have these conversations can and should develop so that they are more productive. And obviously I'm an advocate for this. I have been from the beginning, but I've been really trying to listen to the feedback and criticism about the actual street. And people waste their time on talking about, well, the trial rollout was wrong. It hasn't been a productive part of the conversation, because, I mean, legally, there's no right or wrong way for trials to happen. And anything that they're mad actually in the execution of this, I don't understand why they're actually focusing it on me when this is the administration's trial. So that's also been a confusing point, but whatever scapegoat that they recognize me as either political reasons, whatever. And even me, I try to not get defensive about it and just throw it away. But every so often we need to course correct and get back on this. So with the conversation coming up soon with the council, I just wanted to put some more information out there and get everybody on the same page of what it is we're actually talking about and how we hope to move forward and grow as a city. Thanks for listening.